In the northernmost reaches of South Vietnam, just south of the demilitarized zone, U.S. Marines are fighting a war far removed from the headlines. Here in Quang Tri province, the conflict does not come in sweeping offensives or dramatic breakthroughs. It comes instead in patrols, ambushes, artillery fire, and hills taken and retaken at a steady cost. This is Operation Prairie, a series of sustained combat operations fought between 1966 and 1968 along one of the most heavily contested regions of the war. The demilitarized zone was intended to separate North and South Vietnam. In practice, it has become a corridor. North Vietnamese Army units move men, weapons, and supplies through the DMZ and along the nearby Laotian border, probing southward toward key Marine positions and population centers farther down the coast. Their aim is not a single decisive battle, but continuous pressure, fixing American forces in place, inflicting casualties, and protecting infiltration routes that feed the war in the South. For the Marines assigned to this region, the mission is containment. Enemy units are to be located, engaged, and prevented from breaking through in strength. It is a mission that places infantry units in near constant contact with a determined and disciplined enemy, operating close to its own supply lines and prepared to fight on ground of its choosing. The terrain offers little advantage to the attacker. Steep, jungle-covered hills dominate the landscape, broken by narrow valleys and ridgelines. Visibility is limited. Movement is slow and exhausting. Helicopter landing zones are scarce, often exposed to enemy fire, and resupply can be delayed by weather or hostile action. The North Vietnamese Army has spent months preparing defensive positions here. Bunker systems dug deep into hillsides, reinforced with logs and earth, carefully camouflaged and mutually supporting. Marine operations during Prairie rely on small unit maneuver. Platoons and companies move out from fire bases and combat bases, sweeping assigned sectors in search of enemy movement and supply routes. Contact is often sudden. A burst of automatic fire from a concealed position, a mortar round impacting nearby, or a sudden explosion from a well-placed mine signals the beginning of an engagement. Once contact is made, Marines take cover and return fire, attempting to fix the enemy in place long enough to bring supporting arms to bear. Artillery missions are requested. Aircraft are called in when weather and proximity allow. Assaults are mounted uphill against fortified positions, often under fire from multiple directions. The fighting is close, violent, and brief. After inflicting casualties, North Vietnamese units frequently disengage, withdrawing into the jungle or slipping north toward the DMZ, leaving Marines to hold ground that may be contested again days later. Artillery is central to this fight. Marine fire bases dot the high ground, their guns firing day and night in support of patrols and defensive positions. Box fires are planned around perimeter defenses. Illumination rounds light the night sky as gunners attempt to disrupt enemy movement after dark. Thousands of rounds are expended, turning hillsides into churned earth and shattered vegetation. The enemy responds in kind. North Vietnamese artillery positioned north of the DMZ conducts harassment and counter-battery fire against Marine positions. Shells fall into fire bases, landing zones, and combat bases with little warning. One of the most frequently targeted positions is the Marine base at Quang Tri, a strong point near the DMZ that serves both as an observation post and an artillery platform. Here, Marines endure repeated bombardments, repairing damage, evacuating wounded, and continuing operations under constant threat. The enemy facing the Marines in Operation Prairie is not an irregular guerrilla force. These are regular North Vietnamese Army units, trained, disciplined, and organized in battalions and regiments. They coordinate infantry, mortars, and artillery, and employ tactics designed to wear down American units over time. Ambushes are carefully planned. Night movement is routine. Defensive positions are abandoned only after their purpose has been served. Much of the fighting centers on hills that have no names, only map coordinates. Control of these heights offers observation and artillery advantage, and both sides understand their value. Marines assault uphill, often through thick vegetation and under fire, advancing yard by yard. Once taken, the hills must be defended, sometimes for days, sometimes longer, until units are relieved or ordered to move on. In many cases, ground secured at significant cost is later abandoned as operations shift, only to be contested again in subsequent actions. Between engagements, Marines dig in, fighting holes are deepened, wire is strung, listening posts are established beyond the perimeter at night. Sleep comes in short stretches, interrupted by enemy probes, incoming mortar fire, or the movement of patrols heading out before dawn. Casualties occur not only in major firefights, but during routine operations. Snipers, mines, and indirect fire taking a steady toll. There are few safe areas in this sector. Supply convoys move under threat. Helicopters bringing in ammunition and rations or evacuating wounded often do so under fire. Medical evacuations are frequent, and the sound of rotors becomes a familiar signal of both relief and loss. By late 1968, Operation Prairie gives way to subsequent operations under different names, but the mission remains unchanged. The Marines have succeeded in preventing a major enemy breakthrough into southern Far Corps. North Vietnamese units have been engaged repeatedly and forced to operate cautiously. Yet the broader reality of the war is unchanged. Enemy forces continue to move south. The DMZ remains contested. The fighting does not end. It simply continues under new designations. Operation Prairie does not conclude with a clear victory or decisive moment. It fades into the ongoing record of the war, defined by endurance rather than resolution. For the Marines who fought there, it is remembered as a relentless struggle, marked by constant contact, a professional enemy, and a battlefield where survival depended on discipline, coordination, and the ability to endure pressure day after day. This is the war along the demilitarized zone, largely unseen, rarely discussed, and fought continuously by men whose experiences seldom reach the front pages, but whose service defined one of the most contested regions of the Vietnam War. Thank you for joining us tonight. This has been a report from South Vietnam.